Welcome. We are your hosts, Chris and Tammy.
In this podcast, we dive into the mindset for networking strategies and skills you'll need to build a solid foundation to build a global business.
We've built a multi-million-dollar business and have mentored thousands of people around the globe in the last 25 years.
Okay, so what we want to do here, folks, and again, the topic that we want to cover has a lot to do with the behaviors and the way you may feel around the opportunity, around the product, around the industry of network marketing, around the perception of what you may feel about people around you when you talk about this kind of business. And see, perception is merely a lens or a mindset from which we view people, events, and things. In other words, we believe what we perceive to be accurate from our point of view. And we create our own reality based on those perceptions. And although our perceptions feels very real, that doesn't mean they are necessarily factual. And it's unfortunate that, sometimes our governments, I don't want to get political, but if you look at, for example, the Republican and the Democrats, I mean, they both have good points, both of them. But again, it's just sometimes what's happening is that ego and often what happens, it'll come across if you try to get someone to look at this business venture, at this opportunity, you see it from their point of view, and someone else looks at it from a different point of view. And sometimes it's difficult to kind of find a common ground that we can both see the same thing, so we can move along within the same direction. How can we work around and resolving those things? Well, first of all, is to recognize the perception that someone has acquired or has kind of like cultivated from their upbringing, from their education, right? And it starts with the perception, which builds into a belief. And when it builds into a belief, then it's part of your thoughts. And when it's part of your thoughts, then what's going to happen is you'll have action and reaction that was initiated from that perception, which could start from a very young age. So perceptions are reality from that person's point of view. And one of the things that's very important that contribute to partisans' perception, these are perceptions that are not necessarily the right perception that could lead into misconception. To help us deal with the perception of, for example, can we do business in Canada? Should we do business in Africa? Can we do business in the United States? And what happens is sometimes we build perceptions and we start believing these beliefs that it doesn't work over here, or whatever scenario that you might have sold yourself. Because I'm guilty of that. We're guilty of these things. But one of the things that we're realizing, it's false data. But what is it, the perception that you believe in? And often that experience and observation can come from bad data, an observation that we're concluding that is not necessarily the right information we should be looking at, right? And a lot of it also has to do with the fact that we might be interested in different things, right? For example, I come from an approach where I've always built this business as a business entity. I was not very strong in a customer aspect of things. Do I believe in customers? Absolutely, I do, because that's the foundation, it's the spine, it is the blood flow of our organization. But I understand that customers are fickle, and customers are not going to go out there and bill, but they'll consume, but they're fickle. They go on, they go off, they go on, they go off. Where an associate, on the other hand, will commit. One is because you want to qualify, but two, also they understand the value of the product. So it's a combination of the two. So that's always been my particular approach on how I go about doing things. Is it bad to focus on customers? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I do believe in the balance of things.
You know, you can easily change your perception when you have more data. You know, I think that's important that you learn from people who, I'm not saying you, I'm just talking generalize. If we all learn from people who are getting results, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's network marketing or whatever it is out there. You know, Eric Worre always talks about it. So did Jim Rohn. You know, surrounding yourself with who you surround yourself, your environment is who you become, right? So you want to get into an environment that's going to shift that perception if you're in a state where you need to make some shifts. And these are things that I've always had to work on growing in this profession, because I came from a traditional business background, and it's a different concept, right? As a business owner, you're the boss. You know, as a network marketer, you're independent but interdependent, and that is to understand where people are coming from. Mm-hmm. This is the best way to build relationships with every single person that you're talking to, is finding out where the pain is, because obviously they have a perception about the industry of network marketing, or a perception about products, you know, supplements don't work or whatever it is. And for us to be able to have that understanding, and once you understand first before you're understood. All right. Once you establish that, then people are more open because they just want to share what's going on, right? So you can easily get people to see your point of view and the value and all the things eventually. Some people are longer than others, but that will shift their beliefs on the industry. They'll have a different thought process around how this could work for them, which may turn into an action of wanting to dig further into this.
And you know, Tammy, you touched on some really important points here. And the book from Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, from Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
And this is something that Tammy touched on. Something is learn to understand first and then be understood. Folks, every single wars in the world from the beginning of time could be avoided just with that simple concept. Learn to understand first, then be understood. And most of the time, people want to be understood before understanding the problem. This is so profound when I read this. And one thing that I highly recommend, if you truly want to have success, you need to educate yourself in certain areas to help you work that perception that you have in life. Because if you're able to be in a position to really understand your prospect, doesn't matter if the product aren't interested or they're not interested in the opportunity, all of that is irrelevant. As long as you understand what matters to them, what is important to them. And this is one of the very first things that I know I do when I speak to a leader, is I'm trying to understand who they are and what they want. From that point of view, then I can turn around and provide solutions. But it's not solution based on my agenda that I want them to sign up to build my business. Yes, it's part of the process for sure. But I truly want to make sure that the person that's enrolling with us, with me, for example, that I'm going to serve that person. That is the core, my core belief inside. And these are some of the things that I think all the time. What can I provide? What can I do to help this person get to where they want to be, where they want to get? And then what's going to happen is that belief could change from the person's perspective on the industry based on your approach, understanding what the perception was on the topic. And sometimes we need to either ignore or dismiss nonconforming data that have built that belief. But all of that could actually be worked upon if there is a conversation by understanding them first before you can be understood. Sometimes we need to adjust the data that we have been prone to believe based on what we were exposed to. You know, another thing that Tammy talked about is there's a difference between being independent and interdependent. Understanding I could do it all by myself, but I could become so much more by doing what I do by myself, but by also having support. And there's A's belief and there's B's belief. And the fact is, all of this is based on assumption and conclusion and explanations and evaluation from the past. So to understand the data, and we can selectively decide what should we dismiss and what should we kind of reinforce. And that's key here. And this is the whole message of tonight's training is together we can help each other see clarity on a certain direction in a vision so we can all get there. And the reality is abundance is your birthright. This is your birthright. You do not need to be bonded in chains with this economy, this lie. They are so much more available to you. But for that, we need to break free from that perception. And to break free from that perception, we need to educate ourselves. We need to stay together. We need to help the team to see the big picture, how beautiful the world is. You're not limited to your area code for the rest of your life till you die. That is not true. There's so much more to life. We want all of this for you, but it has to start from you and your perception. And that perceptions may need to be adjusted.
Yeah, just if you're happy where you are, it's totally different. But if you are looking for more, you have to look at where you're at and see what are the adjustments that all of you need to do. Every single day you need to reset. I don't care what anybody says. Every day we have to reset our mindset. First thing in the morning.
Absolutely correct, folks. What's really important is you need to be conscious that you can't just wake up every single day and just go about doing the same routine that you've been doing for the past 20 years of your life if you want to have changes. I would recommend, if you're a reader, pick a book every day or every week. I don't know how fast you read. And educate yourself to help your mind see. This is something that if you do, it will change your life. So you've got to change your perception, and to change your perception, you got to change the data. That's kind of the summary of today's training program. And I hope that was helpful.